I'm Noreen and welcome to my kitchen. Haven't had a face-to-face in a long time. I thought it was about time for another one. So today I'm going to be pressure canning some corned beef. But right around St. Patrick's Day, it's always available. So the stores get it and then nobody buys it. So then they mark it down and that's when I buy it. Because that's when you should buy it. We got it for something like $2 a pound, $1.50 a pound. It was really, really cheap. And I threw it in my freezer. Well, summer's here, garden season is here, harvest is starting to come in, and I need freezer space for other things and needed to do something with this corned beef. So today we're going to pressure can corned beef and I'm going to show you how I do it. So let's go see. Okay, I have in here, what do I have in here? Taking care of all but one of my corned beef, and I just wanted to show you these are Guinness brand beer brine briskets, and I really just want the meat. I don't want I'm not going to be using the pickling spice packet. I've actually tossed those out, and then this particular brand comes, and I'll see if this is warm, so it comes with this block of what I'm calling Guinness jelly, and it comes in there so that when you go to cook that, you know, you get infused with all that Guinness goodness if that's something you like. I'm really only interested in having corned beef, not so much Guinness corned beef. Now, I'm sure that it has marinated plenty in the seasonings while it has been refrigerated and frozen and all that, so I'm not going to worry about that. But there's the meat, and we're going to get ready to cut it up, and then we're going to pack our jars. So I'll be back after I get most of this cut up, and I'll show you how I do that. I've cut up the majority of our corned beef. I had 9 total. There are 6 here in the bowl. I have one last one I'm going to show you how I cut up, and I have 2 left on my tray, and I'm going to actually cook those off, and we're going to have those for lunner, because we're having a late lunch today because we have church tonight, and then we'll have leftovers of corned beef. As you can see, I have just kind of cut these in very thick slices because I want to cube it, as you can see in the bowl. And
about 1 inch cubes.
Yeah, they are, and that's about where you want it, because you want to be able to pack these in the drawer. Oh my goodness, in the jar. Don't pack the meat in the drawer, please. That would be very unadvisable.
And make them uniform so they all cook the same.
Yeah, and these are going to be put in pint jars because pints are my preference for canning meat. And this is going to be a dry pack in sterilized jars, and I will tell you all about that when we come back and show you how we pack the jars with the corned beef. I've got all my jars packed, and you can see they're packed, you know, fairly full, and when I packed them, I really did press down on those cubes of meat in there. Now, when you dry pack meat, I do the same thing with pork shoulder, pork loin, pork tenderloin, chicken breasts that are chunked up, beef roasts that are chunked up. I don't add any liquid to these jars. Now, there are 2 schools of thought on that. Some people will pre-cook this and put it in the jar with liquid. Some people will put it in the jar with liquid raw. Some people will do like I have done and just dry pack the meat. Now, this meat is going to create its own liquor, and it's going to be just fine. Now, one of the reasons I forgot to mention, and it's very, very important, if you are new to canning, and you know the basics of water bath canning and high acid canning, and you want to venture into pressure canning, you want to make sure when you're doing meat, which I find to be the easiest of all pressure canning to do, is the meat. And I love it, and I love having it on my shelf and being able to just reach for a jar of chicken or a jar of, you know, beef cubes or something like that to make a quick and easy, literally 10-minute dinner. You must cut your meat in even sized chunks, and you don't want to put like one big chunk of meat in the jar, and you don't want to put pieces that are too big in the jar, because then you're going to have density issues. And density issues are your enemy when you are home canning. Density means the thickness of whatever object you've put in the jar, which means that if it's too dense, the pressure and the heat that's caused through the pressure canning process will not reach the center of the jar. Therefore, there will be either raw meat or uncooked product in the middle of the jar, and that is going to sit on your shelf, and it is going to cause botulism, which could eventually kill someone, or at the very least make you extremely ill. And we don't want that. We want you to take all the right precautions. We want you to have all the necessary information. YouTube is not your best source of information for home canning. I tell people this all the time when they write me letters or they ask me questions via email. YouTube is a great resource. Do not get me wrong. Otherwise, I wouldn't be using it to share this information with you. However, YouTube should not be your first and only resource when it comes to home canning. You should be referring to the Ball Blue Book of Home Canning, the Ball Book of Complete Home Preservation, or you should also be using the USDA website for home canning, or in addition to that, use the National Center for Home Food Preservation, and this is my personal go-to for reliable recipes and procedure and safety for canning. Now, we have also left 1 inch of headspace in the jar. Now, I'm going to take each one of these jars, and I have a clean paper towel, and I'm dipping it in distilled white vinegar, and I am going to wipe the rim of each jar clean. Remember, my jars are not hot. They're sanitized and clean, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that these rims are ultra clean by running a bit of white vinegar around the edge. This is going to get rid of any residual oils from my hands or from the meat that may have been left behind while I was filling the jars. Now we're ready to go ahead and pop the lids and rings on here. I got this really awesome new lid lifter from Progressive. Progressive makes amazing kitchen tools. They also make the onion cuber that everybody loves, and they make so many different neat kitchen tools. They have some new kitchen tools that attach to the tops of mason jars, and I wrote to them and I said, I saw these, I think they're brilliant. Would you be willing to send me some so I could give them a try? I will be doing a review of them in an upcoming video, but they not only sent me those jar tools, they also sent me a canning rack, this really amazing lid lifter, lid wand, and they sent me a jar lifter I'm going to show you in a little while. But I'm going to show you why this is so brilliant. I am surprised that somebody didn't come up with this a long time ago, okay? Are you ready for this? Because if you're a canner, this is going to blow your ever-loving mind. Okay, lid, jar, plunge. Woo! I think that is so incredible. That is like right up there for me next to the freaking fax machine, okay? Magic. Jar, plunge, done. You don't have to use a second hand. It's positively wonderful. And you probably, you know, could do that, but... Okay. Also, for those of you who may be wondering, I am using a supply of ball lids that are from a very old stash that I bought from a hardware store that was going out of business. So you can be jealous if you like, but these are not those new crappy lids. So I'm going to go ahead and finish putting my lids and rings, and I'll be right back when it's time to put these in the canner. Alright, I have loaded up my canner. I got a total of 15 jars of the corned beef, if I didn't mention that before. And now we're going to turn the heat on. I've already turned it on high. And we're going to allow this to come up to a pressure. When that happens, I'll be back and I'll show you putting the weight on. Alright, you want to wait until your steam vent is steaming consistently. So make sure it's not like pss, pss, like sporadic. You want it to be coming out in a clean stream just like that. And then you want to set your timer for 10 minutes. And you want to let that vent for 10 minutes, and then we'll be back when it's time to put the weight on. Alright, our timer went off, so we vented for 10 minutes. Now I'm going to put my weight on. Now my weight has 3 separate options, a 5, a 10, and a 15. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop on my 10-pound weight.
Very carefully.
And very carefully. I've done this many times. You want to make sure that it spins, okay? And I like to keep it so that the numbers face forward. Now you're going to want to start, if you have a gauge on your particular model, if you have a different brand than I have, you're going to want to consult the manufacturer's instruction manual. And you do not set your timer until the gauge, if you have one, reaches 10 pounds of pressure on the gauge right here. This needle is going to move up to 10 pounds. I like to have it go to 11. And then I like to turn my heat down. And then it will go back down to 10. And then you do not leave your house. You do not go take a nap. You do not go watch TV with your husband. You stay in your kitchen and you monitor this gauge every, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes. Do not walk far away from it. Always be within earshot of it. And my computer is right in my kitchen, so I am literally steps away from this canner, so I am able to monitor that. You can see the needle is starting to go up on the gauge. Once it hits the 10, I'm going to turn the heat down to a medium, and then I'm going to set my timer. When it hits 10, this weight here is going to start to jiggle and dance a little every few minutes. It's going to go psst, and it's going to stop, and then it's going to go psst, and then it's going to stop. So
that's just the water boiling that's filled out.
That's just from the steam. That's all that's from. Yeah. It's from the steam.
It's not leaking.
No, it's fine. And you can, that pop that you just heard is the lid expanding to create that even more of a seal that's already going on there. So we're just going to monitor. We're going to go ahead. We're going to start our timer when this reaches 10 pounds of pressure, and we'll be back when it's time to turn this off. Okay, it is time to take the lid off the canner. Now, we process this for 75 minutes at 110 pounds, and you need to make sure you monitor your gauge. If it falls below 10 pounds, not 110, 10 pounds, not 110. If it falls below 10, you're going to need to make sure that you compensate for that by processing it longer once it does hit 10 pounds. So I've gone ahead and I've removed my weight. This has sat for 1 hour after I turned off the heat. After 75 minutes was up, I turned off the heat and I went and I ran my errands. When I came back, it had been an hour. The gauge had reached 0. I removed my weight and I put it away, and I undid all of my thumb screws here. So now all we have to do is take the lid off, and we can start removing our jars. And I don't know if you can see, but it is still bubbling, and you can see that the meat has produced its own liquor in there, so you have nice juices from the meat. And now you just go ahead and you take them out, keep them in a draft-free spot. You want to make sure that wherever you have them, they are not subjected to a draft at all, because a draft could potentially crack your jars, and all that work would be for nothing. I always also put my jars on a folded up bath towel, because then I know that they will not crack from being placed on the cold counter, because even though my kitchen is warm, it is still summer and we have the air conditioner running. So you want to make sure you take every precaution. It appears that most of my jars have already sealed inside the canner, which is a lovely thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and let these sit until they're totally cool. I'm going to let them sit overnight right here on the counter. And then tomorrow I will take the rings off, wash them, label them, and put them away. I will be using this corned beef in a couple of recipe videos just so you can get an idea of what you can do with this. I mean, it makes for great sandwiches. It makes for great, quick corned beef and cabbage dinner. And then you can come up with other things that you can do with this. So I'm just going to take the divider tray out of my canner here. And that's it. That is how you make or can corned beef. Now, there is one thing I wanted to tell you. Always follow your manufacturer's instructions for the particular model of canner that you have. And if Rick will come over here just for a second. A lot of people get worried because you're going to see I had about 2 quarts of water in the bottom of my pot along with about 1/2 cup of white vinegar, which helps to combat any sediment that you may get from the impurities in your water. Now, you're going to see that the water has turned color of, golden brown, and that's from transfer. When you can things, the pressure increases inside the vessel, and it's going to push a certain amount of liquid out through the seal. Now, over the course of the processing, the seal is going to heat up, and it is going to form a vacuum, and that lid is going to seal on. So, a little bit of transfer is all right. If you end up seeing in the bottom of your canner that you've got quite a substantial amount of product, you need to be careful and check and see if you have a broken jar. Because if you weren't careful when you washed your jars to make sure that none of them were nicked or cracked, then that may be the problem. I have never, knock wood, knocking it, I have never, ever had a jar break in my canner. So I feel very fortunate. Okay, so that is how you can corned beef. I hope if this is something that you're interested in doing, that you do give it a try. And I hope that you take every precaution and do your research, because once you learn how to can, it's a wonderful thing, and you're never going to want to stop. There's always going to be something that you want to be doing to put back or save back in your pantry. This makes for the best fast food.
Come across a great sale.
Exactly. It's the best way to preserve food and save money, because you're buying at today's price and you may be eating it a year from now, because this will be good for up to a year in a cool, dry spot in your pantry. So, I hope that you give this a try. I hope that you learned something. I hope that this was informative, and I hope it was helpful. And until next time, I'll see ya. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen today. I hope you liked what you watched today, and I hope that you try it, and I hope that you love it. If you like what you saw, please consider hitting the thumbs up button and giving me a positive rating. And also, make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you're already not a subscriber, so that you don't miss out on any of the fun we have here in our kitchen every single day. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to come by tomorrow. Until next time, happy eating!